Calgary, a small southern Alberta town, has made recent headlines for not one, but two alleged incidents of anti-Indigenous racism, prompting activists to say these are not one-off events. First, a Cardston doctor allegedly told a group of homeless Indigenous people to get a job, and sardonically offered them Tylenol 3s in May. Then last week, Cardston community members took to social media after an A. From left to right, Melody Bastian, Nadine Eaglechild and Jean Oldshoes, the founding members of ant-Indigenous White Buffalo Trailblazers, a group of anti-racism advocates formed to help Southern Albertans report hate crimes. They're currently partnering with the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights and the Alberta Hate Crimes Committee, submitted an aerial view of Cardston, a small southern Alberta town which made recent headlines for not one, but two alleged incidents of anti-Indigenous racism, prompting activists to say these are not one-off events. Submitted. Fraser Logan, a spokesperson for the RCMP, said there is no record of the A. The job of the RCMP is to investigate crimes when complaints are made, Logan added. All calls and all complaints are treated and investigated equally. Indigenous activists believe anti-Indigenous racism in southern Alberta isn't being addressed adequately. Article continued below. These aren't isolated incidents that are happening, said Nadine Eaglechild, a founding member of the ant-Indigenous White Buffalo Trailblazers. Eaglechild and two colleagues formed the ant-Indigenous and partnered with the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights and the Alberta Hate Crimes Committee to help Southern Albertans report hate crimes. The racism down here is really bad. We call it the Deep South here because of how bad the racism is, she added. Eaglechild believes that racism has existed in Cardston for decades, but is only garnering attention now because the community has had enough. I used to go to school in Cardston and it was just horrible, she said. She remembers how non-Indigenous students would refer to her as squaw. Read more. West Edmonton Mall store removes statue with headdress made of lollipops. Article continued. Beller opinion. There is no moment in which racialized people are safe from racial terror. Look of Indigenous jurors indicative of a systemic problem. Experts say the town of Cardston sits just east of the Canadian Rockies and minutes from the American border. Kim Weaselfat, 54, is originally from Kainai Nation, an Indigenous community adjacent to Cardston. She recalls the non-stop racism she experienced while attending school in town. I just kind of accepted that I'm a second-class citizen until I moved away to Calgary to go to school and work, Weaselfat said. I just thought that's the way it was, so when I moved home 4 or 5 years ago, I started to see the racism, and I was like, holy, this is crazy. It just infiltrates everything. It's in the education system, in the justice system, in social economics, it's in the medical system. After the Cardston doctor allegedly mistreated homeless Indigenous people in May, Weaselfat and a group of Indigenous advocates decided to act together. The team set up the Niitsitapi Peace Camp in the Cardston area. Weaselfat said that the Niitsitapi organizers built the peace camp because we want to change this for our children. We want our children to be safe. Locals were invited to the campgrounds to share stories about their experiences with racism. The first people who visited that camp were homeless. They were being targeted, so we developed a relationship with them, Weaselfat said. It's just horrifying to hear some of the stories we were given. The advocates took the camp down on Monday, with plans to enter a strategic planning phase. We have a lot of recommendations that we've gathered from people and we're looking at those next, Weaselfat said. Ingrid Hess, a Cardston lawyer who issued a complaint against the doctor to the College of Physicians and Surgeons, said, I've practiced law in this area for 22 years and I've seen a lot of incidents involving Indigenous people and mistreatment. There's a real divide, she added. If you drive down the streets of Cardston on a school day, you'll never see a group of mixed Indigenous and white kids. You'll see groups of Indigenous kids and groups of white kids. Jeff Shaw, the chief administrative officer for the town of Cardston, is concerned about the onslaught of negative comments he's been hearing about the town. I have no debate that over the years there were instances when people who need a little further understanding, context and empathy have acted inappropriately, he said. The problem of that is that it overshadows the hundreds of people in the community who every day are trying to do really good things and trying to work with our First Nations neighbors. He added that a couple of instances of racism that aren't welcomed have taken away from the work the community is doing to maintain good relationships with Indigenous communities, like organizing food drives for the Kainai Nation Food Bank every year or staging roadside cleanups. Cardston also co-hosts a friendship powwow with Kainai Nation and organizes an annual Day of Learning, during which Indigenous leaders are invited to speak, Shaw added. He noted that the town's council made a resolution on June 19, 2018, to develop a local Truth and Reconciliation Committee. According to meeting minutes obtained from Shaw, the committee will pursue the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada relative to municipal governments. Weaselfat hopes that the attention paid to Cardston will result in better circumstances for Indigenous people living in and near the town. We are really pushing for meaningful dialogue and meaningful engagement, Weaselfat said. No, oh, I'm going to donate to the food bank and everything is okay now, or, I'm going to go pick up your garbage in your community and we're helping you. That's a band-aid fix. We want change and we want it to be healthy. We want to reflect the true intention of what the treaties were supposed to be, she said. We were supposed to be living in peace. That was what our ancestors understood it.